Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Adya and today we are going to study about crop production and management. So starting up with the introduction, as we know that all the living organisms require food. Plants can make their food themselves through photosynthesis process, but animals, including humans, cannot make their own food. So where do animals get their food? And why do we have to eat the food? This is important. So, we get our food from plants or animals or from both. And you already know that energy from the food is utilized by the organisms to carry out the different body function like digestion, in which breakdown of the food takes place, from which we get energy, respiration, in which exchange of the gases takes place, and excretion, in which removal of the waste material from the body takes place. So now what is crop? So when the plant of the same kind cultivated in one place on a large scale is called crop. So for example, we say wheat crop. So it means that in the field, whole area, there is only wheat plants is present, no other plant. So we have to remember that in the large scale, right, on the large scale means in the big proportion, there is the same kind, only one type of a crop is cultivated. And this definition can be asked in the 2 marks. Along with that, you have to write examples. Now, crops are of different types like cereals, vegetables and fruits. So, this can be classified on the basis of the seasons in which they grow. Right? Like as in India, it is a vast country. There is a different climate conditions from north to south as we go from Kashmir, in which there is a lot of cool atmosphere is there, while in the south there is humid and hot temperature is there, while in the eastern and western area there is a different temperature and the climate conditions are there. So these factors like climate conditions like temperature and humidity and rainfalls vary from one region to another. So, rich varieties of the crops can be grown in the different parts of the country. Now, there are two types of crops, that is kharif crops and rabi crops. And this question is very important, can be asked as a difference between kharif crops and rabi crops, or can be asked as write the definition of a kharif crops and rabi crops along with their examples. Right, so starting with the kharif crops. The crops which are grown in the rainy season are called as a kharif crops. These crops are called as kharif crops because they require lots of water in it. So they are called as a kharif crops. And the rainy season in the India is generally from June to September. And the examples of it is paddy, maize, soybean, groundnut, cotton, etc. This all the plants and crops requires lots of water, right? While rabi crops, these crops are grown in the winter seasons and they are called as rabi crops. As these crops require less amount of the water, they are grown in the winter season. The winter season in the India is generally from October to March, and the examples like wheat, gram, pea, mustard and the linseeds, they are examples of the rabi crops. You can remember as a kharif crops that is grown in the rainy season as in KR. From the KKR, you can remember as in KR, while the rabi crops that is grown in the winter season that you can remember as an RW. From RAW, row, you can have to skip the A, you can remember RW. Right. So next portion that is where going to study, that is the basic practices for the crop production. Now, what are the steps that are included in the crop production? That is most important, right? Can be asked in the different questions, right? Write a short note and write the steps for the basic practices for the crop production. So there are 7 steps in the agriculture practices. First is the preparation of the soil. The soil should be soft, loamy, should contain minerals and nutrients, and should able to hold the plant. The next step is sowing of the seed. The third step is the adding manure and the fertilizers. Manures and the fertilizers are added to the soil so that they can obtain nutrients and minerals and the plant grow quickly. The next step is irrigation. Irrigation means watering to the crop. The next and the most important step is protecting from weeds. The weeds are nothing but unwanted plants. Sometimes what happens when we are growing a particular crop like in wheat, so around a particular wheat plant, there are unwanted plants that may be present around it. And what they will do, they will absorb the nutrients from the soil, and so the nutrients that is required to the wheat plant is not obtained. So ultimately, the wheat plant will die. So this is called as a weeds. The next is the harvesting. Harvesting means getting and collecting of the crop. The last step is storage of the particular crop, like we are storing wheat and rice in our house. The first step is preparation of the soil. This is very important step before growing a crop. The important task in the agriculture is to turn the soil and loosen it. If the soil is not loose and the soil is tight and the particles are very close to each other, then the root does not penetrate into the soil. But if the soil is loosened, then the root can easily penetrate into the soil and can transport water and minerals as it contains root hairs. And along with it, the loosened soil helps in the growth of the microbes and the earthworm present in the soil, and so it will make the soil porous. This organism turn and loosen the soil, as well as they will add humus, means organic matter. They will decompose the dead and decaying matter and add humus to the soil. And since the soil, the plant grows on the upper part of the top part of the soil, so the nutrients are absorbed from that particular part of the plant. Now that top layer of the part of the soil is deficient of the nutrients, while the remaining underground part of the soil contains lots of amount of the nutrients. So it is necessary to turn the soil. So while turning the soil, it is rotated, the soil is rotated, and the nutrients will be provided to the plants as the roots are not extended deep down, right? Because the crop's roots are not so deep as we have seen, or as we do that we do not eat same kind of a food, right? Regularly we do not eat only chapati or rice. We eat different types of the food so that we can get all the type of the nutrients that is required by the body. If we will eat only one type of the food, then we will suffer from the deficiency of certain vitamins like vitamin A, B, C, etc. So similarly in the plants also, the rotation of the or we can say the turning of the soil is important, so that the nutrients is also turned and will help to growth of the plant. This is the most important line and can be asked in the filling the blanks or the MCQ. The process of the loosening and turning of the soil is called tilling and plowing. Now, this plowing is done with the tool called as a plow, and this plow is made up of an iron or wood. See, if the soil is dry, then watering is required before plowing. As dry soil, you have to require more energy to plow, while if we add water, it will loosen up and you can plow it easily. Now, as we have plowed, there are big crumbs of the soil, so it is called as a crumbs, and this can also be asked in the filling the blanks or the MCQ, and it is necessary to break the crumbs. Crumbs means big particles have been formed or big granules have formed, right? So for to break these crumbs or lumps, right, what you have to do, you have to done the leveling is done with the help of a leveler. Leveling means there is one particular single layer is formed, or the big particle is converted into the small particle. You can say that. Leveling the field is beneficial for sowing as well as for irrigation. If the surface of the soil is even, there is no big lumps or big particles is present, so you can sow your seed easily and the irrigation is done properly, right? And if there is uneven soil, so you cannot sow your seeds properly, right? Sometimes manure is added before tilling as it helps in the proper mixing of a manure with soil. So sometimes we are adding manure before tilling. So because after adding manure, we are just plowing and tilling it, so that manure along with the soil is rotated and mixed, so that the manure is reached to the every part of the soil. So the agriculture implements used for preparation of the soil. The first one is plow. It is used since ancient time for tilling the soil, adding fertilizers to the crop, removing the weeds. And because of the structure, you can remove the weeds easily. The next is turning of the soil. You can rotate the soil easily with the help of this plow. Now this plow, here you can see the long rod-like or stick-like structure is called as a plow shaft. Here the triangular structure of the metal, iron metal, you can see that is a plow shed, right? So here this beam is kept upon animals, then this is the plow shaft, and here like this plow shed is there, and the animals will move, and along with this the turning and tilling of the soil takes place in the whole field, right? And this is made up of either wood or maybe iron. In the current time it is made up of iron, but in the earlier days it was made up of wood, right? The second one is hoe. It is a simple tool that is used for removing the weeds or loosening of the soil. So here there is a long rod that is present, which may be either made up of a wood or the metal, and the bent plate is there, which helps in removing the weeds or loosening of the soil. And this is maybe driven or pulled by the animals. The next and the modern technique is cultivator. Here behind the tractor you can see that is the cultivator, right? It is the modern technique, and nowadays the plowing is done by the tractor driven cultivator, and as it is covered the large area, it saves time and labor, as it does not require lot of people or do not require animals, right? And the remaining steps of the agriculture practices and the further part of this chapter will be soon uploaded. Until then, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and please Press the bell icon so you will soon get the notification as I upload the videos. Thank you.